So people usually ask, well, where do you start when you're doing your build? Is there an order? Not really. I mean, that's the beauty of this. You can do whatever the heck you want. Of course, some things aren't going to be able to be put together until the other thing is connected. So say like I can't put my shifter on until my bar's on, but I can't put my bar on until my fork is in there. I can't put my fork in there until my headset's in there. So I guess there is an order, but I mean, I could start with headset first, or I can go and start on bottom bracket, throw in my crankset, or I can go and put on my rear derailleur. Can't put on my cable and housing until I have my other cockpit set up over here. Saddle, that's one of the last things I'm worried about. Tires, that's pretty obvious. Brakes, I can throw my brakes on my rear over here, but can't put my brakes until blah blah blah. You get the picture. So that's not how I teach class, but I'm by myself right now. We're gonna get this done. So with this here, with the headsets, with the Crane Creek, I'm gonna go ahead and use the Park tool. And yeah, I know a lot of you may not have it or don't want to buy this one. It's the HHP-1. You can go make yourself, fabricate one from your local hardware store with a rod, washers, blah blah blah, that stuff right there. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have a lack of words for today, but so something like this, I'm probably going to go ahead and do a light coating. When I say light coating, it could be just one finger of grease, give it a nice sweep inside. Not a bad idea to fill this first, make sure it's not too rough. If there is, you can do just a very light sanding on the inside. I would just more of a scuffing, but for the most part, these frames should be ready to go. This one feels pretty good. Same when you get into your bottom bracket, you're cleaning out your threads, blow it out, wipe it. Make sure those are super clean. So I'm gonna throw a little grease on here. I just have the regular Park tool. They're Poly Lube 1000 PPL-2. Pretty awesome. I got a brush cut out in here, or you can use a finger, take the lid off. Of course, I like to have my napkin nearby. So just a little pinch between the cheek and gum. Now that I get the lube going, and I'm just doing a thin wipe in here. And obviously that's going to allow some lubrication for that piece to go in there. Maybe when it's ready to come out, it's not so stuck. And that's all I'm going to do right there. And I do like to keep stuff grease to a minimum, We don't need it gooped everywhere. We don't need to goop up the steering column or the steering tube, things like that. Speaking of which, I need that. Where is that? Oh, it's behind me. So the fork itself is pretty cool. So I figure if I really wanted to go cyclocross racing, be serious, I wouldn't mind getting a nice light wheel set built for this. Of course, I'd have to switch out to some drop bars, and then maybe even change out the fork, go with a carbon fork just to soak up some more road vibration, get a little more beefiness, lighten up the bike too. So this is just, ow, that felt great. But yeah, the fork alone, you feel the steel. And we're gonna see what this looks like. I'm not sure how much steer too I'm gonna cut. I may go with, maybe I won't cut anything so I could be sitting way up here. I'd love some ape hangers like way up here. That'd be pretty bad. Until my shoulders blow out. So we do have the Crown Race with the Crane Creek. It has a rubber lip that sits upward. It's basically sitting like a bowl. So when everything comes together, it's going to grab and sit on the outside of the bearing and protect it. So sliding this guy on, there's a bit of a ridge down here. It's a good ridge, could be 1.5 mil thick or something, but this has to be slammed on. When you slam this on, we don't want to tear the rubber. We want to put the tool in the appropriate spot where we're not going to be gouging the race where the bearing will be riding on. So this is our driver. Park tool makes a specific one, or you can go make your own, I don't care. And then we got some adapters here that are going to fit appropriately. So basically, like I said, we're either hitting the outer edge or the interior diameter. And we do not want to tear our rubber little boot gasket. That sits right in the middle right there, so I like that. And then we got our driver. Boom, and I prefer to do this off the table. I'm gonna hold it in my hand, pow, pow, pow. This way, instead of putting this on the floor or putting this on a table, something like that, we don't wanna damage your dropouts. Especially if you're doing this with a fork with suspension. We got knobs, we got your tuning knobs down here. You're gonna bend something, mess it up. Look it up. What else to prepare for this? Let's see. So basically, we're using this tool. We're gonna drive in both cups at the same time. You can do that. So we got our top here, no bearing, just pure cups. Bearing's gonna come out, boom. So this will sit on top. Of course, if you got any writing or logos, you're gonna put that wherever you want. What do we got here? 40, 40, 40. Got it on four spots. Got some numbers in the back. Let's put that number in the back because we don't know what the hell that is. We'll get the 40 so everyone knows. And then we got this guy over here. Take this guy apart. If you got this is an old model. This is a HHP-1. This one has a little spring on it. It can pinch your finger, so watch out for that. Boom. These here are adapters meant to hit the cup in the right spot. Again, we're not going to put any pressure where the bearings are going to be riding. So that falls in the center pretty good. Next thing, go there. And then if you even need to, you could even go no bearing or adjustment, and then maybe it sits fine inside here. It actually falls in a nice circle right there, so I'm gonna go with that. And of course I moved my location. Let's see. Style points, gotta line up the logo. And same thing down here. So yeah, this fits right in a nice circle. We're gonna go with that. And basically we're gonna back this up, kind of make it flush with the thread. And then I can drive this up, get that click. Ooh, got perfect, got really close. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn, see if we can get that number towards the back, or wherever you want. As you're turning this may want to spin anyway, so, you know, if you don't cry today, you'll cry tomorrow. Okay, all right, start applying pressure. If this bottom starts to spin, we can put a wrench on it, hold that. I'll just hold it for hand right now. As soon as I start getting some tension, you can go back, double check your logos. Straight enough. And it seems to be staying still. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this up in the stand. Get two hands on this puppy. One might get sucked in more. Top is getting sucked in more than the bottom will come. As long as we're straight, we're not crooked, cockeyed. If we are, it's just gonna get jammed in there. Oh yeah. Should feel some force on this. Feel some tension. Shouldn't be totally easy. That's just gonna ensure we're a nice tight fit. And this guy will not be coming loose on you. And we're just about there. Looks like the logo stayed pretty straight on the bottom. Might have turned a little bit on top. But you're going to feel that consistent force, and all of a sudden it's going to get really tough. Like right about there, I'm feeling that toughness. But it also needs to come to a complete stop. So right about there, it feels like it came to a complete stop. Now I'm going to give it just a little more of a kiss, just a slight turn. Boom. Maybe one more. Boom. Okay. Now it feels like it actually tightened up a little more. Another kiss. I know it's hard to gauge, but worst case scenario, you get a creak, come back, tighten it back up. Feels like I pretty much hit the end right there. Now I can crack this guy loose, and then this guy can follow. Beautiful. Okay. You know what? Next, we really have to do knock on our crown race. So let's get the camera off of that guy. So got the crown race. Get in the correct direction. Get our driver. Boom. That's it. Oh, a little too big. No, that was the right one. Just hitting on the inside. Not going to hit our race. Driver and a good size hammer. And the hammer is going to be something heavy. We're not using a soft side. We're not using a soft mallet or something like that, but we're going to use this guy right here. So again, holding it in hand, do not hit yourself unless you want to, but you can do some taps here. If it's a heavy hammer, go ahead and choke up on it rather than being over here. You're going to get a little more control over here. Of course, you lose a little power, but you may not need that power. Then you're going to hear a tone change. It's going to go a little deeper, a little more of a thud. You know what I'm saying? A thud. And don't pinch your thumb down here. And making sure this is relatively straight, not totally crooked and cockeyed. And yes, we are getting a little cockeyed, but I think it's just new. All right, that doesn't look too great. We're going to try a different one. Definitely got crooked, and this is brand new, so I can see that happening. And that just sits on the rubber. And make sure you get these right side up. There's writing on these. Writing is regular. Oof, man, all these hit right on the rubber. Yeah, I suppose you can get something and tap this edge over here, but I'm going to try and keep even pressure on it. It's looking a little more even. That's a tough one. So that one started to screw up the rubber lip a little bit, so I'm going to stop that. So these adapters I have are not that great. They're not hitting in a great spot. I heard that. Let's go ahead and try this by itself. Oof, man, I don't like that one either. Jesus. When you got that rubber lip around there, that makes it really hard to clear. I think we can do this carefully. I'm gonna have to angle this driver. Wow. Well, that kind of marred it up a little bit. So far I've torn the rubber lip a little bit, kind of marred up the interior a little bit. Trying to use the appropriate tools and it's not working out. Gosh darn it. And we're just sitting a little crooked. Do not like that. Probably hard to see, but we're sitting a little crooked there. So we got to fix that. Yeah, so you can see what happened. This little rubber lip is very soft, so it kind of got marred up. So, I mean, there's a little bit, it's really a dust booty. Everything will survive, but it's a bummer not finding the right part. So I'm searching around for some type of adapter. All right, so I got to figure this out. Maybe my tools are outdated. That is an old Crown Race smacker. So I think I'm gonna tap this guy back off. I'm gonna file that ridge because it is a very sharp, pronounced ridge. So I'm gonna go. I want a brass punch. So without chipping my paint, shouldn't take much just to knock this guy loose because this got wedged down there. There we go. So now there's a little lip here, right there. Definitely a sharp edge being brand new. So basically this edge right here, if I can just soften that edge, this will slide on much easier. Boom. Man, this is a little big, but just something like a fingernail file. We just want to kind of round this edge here. Boom. I have something different. I mean, I have a rat tail, and then I got this. This is a triangular. This is good for getting in between threads, but again, without chipping any paint. Just want to soften it a little bit. And it's just the edge. Once you get past the edge, that's not the part that's holding or pressing it on. It's going to be the rest of the diameter down there. So if we were to improvise, suppose if you had another bearing, an old headset bearing, you can use that. So you would slide this on, slide your old bearing on. That's going to obviously hug it perfectly. And then you just beat the crap out of that. All right. Because we're not worried about that bearing, but it will place even pressure all around and not harm that brace surface. But I don't have an extra one. I did find an old, this is a part of a bottom bracket cup. Of course, this edge is fitting nicely, so this will get beat up. So if you have something like this, you don't mind beating the crap out of that. But this is sitting in a great spot, and this can come behind it. Boom, drive it on here. So we really went just even pressure all the way around in the correct spot. This is going to fit better than these other stupid adapters. These adapters are probably 20 plus years old. So we'll try this again. Again, if you got a vise, you can always sit inside of the fork right on the vise handle. Throw a rag there if you want. It's going to sit perfectly right there as long as everything else is structurally sound. And we'll give it some smacks. There we go. Took a beating. I felt it almost pinch my palm right there, but I'm going to give it a couple more love taps. All right, so I did end up using half of a bottom bracket shell. This is actually, I won't name the brand just because I beat it up here a little bit, but this one is aluminum, so it is pretty solid. So we should have a good fit right there. The rubber dust lip did get messed up, and that sucks, but for lack of trying to go find the stupid tool and coming back next week, I wanted to get this on. So we'll know for a fact once everything's together. Adjust your headset if something got compromised here. We'll find out. All right, so we have these cups in. We're gonna do light coating of grease inside here, top and bottom. And again, just the regular Park Tool stuff. And we're gonna do the bottom as well. So I'm going to drop the bearings in. These happen to look like the same bearing top and bottom. Boom. This one here I'm going to slide onto the fork. Boom, go the appropriate direction. So if we're flat here with an angle on the bottom, it's going to mirror itself. So flat on the outside, flat on the outside. Boom, so this will go down. You could even give it a little spin. Make sure everything's spinning okay. And I need to get my stem. This is going to come up through there. Let's see here. So come through. And we can put a little grease here at the base as well. Definitely not happy with this crown race the way that went on. And we do not need grease on the rest of the steer tube. Nothing's going to be touching it on the inside. And make sure you're working close enough so you can grab all your stuff. So next in line, they actually have star nut connected here, so this star nut will need to be installed at some point. So let's get that off. So when I do teach class, I do try and teach you like you're working by yourself. So if you're in a situation like I am, where I kind of jump the gun, just got to figure out how to hold things, have your tools next to you. And we can put a little grease here at the base as well. So if you're in a situation like I am, where I kind of jump the gun, just got to figure out how to hold things, have your tools next to you. Have your tools So this is all one piece here. It may come apart, but there's a silver sleeve with a split. It's tapered. The tapered portion will slide down, and then it slides in between your bearing and your steer tube. I'll slide that down all the way. So I'm pushing upward here, pushing downward here, trying to compress, get all the play out. Hold upward, give it a spin. Feels nice and good at this point. There's no pressure on it other than my hand, but I like the way it feels. You can twist for your logo. It actually will stay in place, but if you need to walk away, you can always use a strap. Something like this here, and just strap it to the frame. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe you got to go get the phone, finish the rest of your pizza. Boom. All right, so the next in place here, you're putting spacers here, and then your stem. The steer tube's pretty tall. I'm gonna assume they were allowing me to use this for whatever I want. So if I want to be a high rider, I will. I'm gonna pull out all my spacers. Bet you I still won't have enough. Just put all the thick ones down at the base. Let's just load the sucker up. So these are 10 mil. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Oh, let's see. Boom. I wonder if it's intended to run at the highest maximum. Let's keep going. Now let's count. We're just gonna stack this puppy up. So no matter what size you're doing, whether you have no spacer and you're slammed down here, or you're stacked way up here like a dork like me, you want to be left with this top of the steer tube just shy. You want it to sit below your stem. So you want it to sit something like this. You want your stem to sit up here. You want your stem to stick up at least 3 mil. So this is going to be recessed down. If this is flush with the top of your stem, then you have an issue and you need to throw a spacer in there, whether it's a 2.5 or 5. We need that space. So when we tighten the cap at the top nut, the top nut is strictly by feel. We're not going heavy. There's no specific torque number, but if I had to put something close to it, you're talking 2-3 Newton meters maybe, because we're putting pressure on bearings. So it's like a handshake. You're not going to over squeeze somebody. You kind of modulate. You're like, okay, I don't want to act like a dead fish, but you don't need to be crush a hand. So I think we're getting closer. Get on there. I'm definitely not going to run it this way, but I'm just doing it to see what it looks like. So yeah, if I put my stem, okay, so there's a big gap in there. My gap's like that. I want to cut that gap in half. So I'm going to remove one. It's 1.5 mil. And it's getting closer. And I can remove this 2.5. All right, so now I got, that's like a 1 or 2 mil gap. So that might do it, but it's also running very close. So that gap right there, it's a very minimal gap. I would love to have at least double that right there. So I need to add something very thin. I'm gonna see what the thinnest one I have here. Wow, that's paper thin right there. This guy's paper thin. This guy might be 1 mil. That's pretty darn close to what I want. I'm gonna assume that my fork is pushed all the way up. Push my stem down. Yeah, that's looking, that's about decent. I wouldn't mind one more paper thin one. That would be cool. Let's see. How about I trade it for a 2 mil? Boom. Yeah, I like that right there. So we do want that. We never want to have that up here flush to the top, because when we're going to be pulling this tube upward, this is where this is fine tuning. Even though it feels really tight and great here in the head and the bike, there is going to be some movement. So we don't want this headset rocking. Just that little bit of movement, we don't want that. So we're pulling upward, fork is coming up, and we don't want it to run into your top cap of your rest of your headset. If it runs into it, then you will never get tight. It will always just be jiggling around, because this thing does have a little step on it, and then it drops down. It should clear the rest of the steer tube. But at this point, I can go ahead and add that. I'm going to throw a little grease on my top cap bolt, also called a preload bolt, because we're going to be preloading the bearings. Just like you're preloading a handshake, assuming your handshake is less than 3 seconds, you know, nothing too creepy. But that would go into the star nut. So that's where I would take this off and install my star nut. That star nut, this guy over here, that's what this screw grabs onto. This is going to grab onto, so this will be forced into the steer tube, and it will stay there permanently, so then it becomes part of the steer tube. This will come down, grab it. When it starts to tighten this, it'll pull everything up, pull the entire headset or fork up, putting pressure on the bearings, gentle pressure, and then once we find that it feels good, plays out of the headset, moves still real nice like butter left and right, then we tighten up, we lock up that position with these 2 stem bolts.